Hi, this is Mali, and this is the first time. The first song I ever wrote was actually for and about my mother. We'd had a really, really big fight that morning. And I think I had a classic, I'm planning to leave home and I'm done with this and I'm independent and peace and all of that stuff. Major blowout. But then I came back in the evening after having watched Michael Jackson's This Is It, which was in the theaters at that time, and I was super inspired. I came back to a house, an empty house, and it was raining and the curtains were blowing. It was very cinematic, and in the corner of the apartment was a piano with just a light on top of it. It was like calling out to me. And I sat down, bawled my head off, and wrote a song called No Place Like Home, which was an apology song to my mother. And I performed it as a surprise for the whole family on her birthday, which was a week later. And that was the first time I sort of like announced that I now write music of my own. And yeah, it was a cool moment. The piano. My parents were very ambitious for me when I was 5 because I was the first child. They put me in for dance lessons and music lessons and art lessons and swimming and tennis and all kinds of things. I mean, they had so much ambition for me, and I'm now an indie musician. But I started learning piano at the age of 5. I didn't like it at first, to be honest, because it was very regimented and it was grade exams, and there was a lot of compulsion to it that didn't allow me to really like the musical creative aspect of it. But it was only a few years later where I started trying to make my own melodies and trying to cover songs and explore improvisation that I actually started to like it and enjoy it. And now, after so many years, it's probably my principal instrument. The Chennai Live band hunt with my first band, Basin Bridge, I think in 2010. And that was the first time we also got merch made. I remember my dad helped us make coffee mugs and t-shirts. And at the finals of the contest, at the theater where it was happening, he was outside distributing our t-shirts to everyone. And when we got on stage, a third of the audience was all wearing our merch. And it was such a cool moment. That was also shortly after IPL that year, and all of my friends showed up with like face paint and wigs and all kinds of cricket match related paraphernalia. And it was a great moment. Oh my God. I Want You by Savage Garden. I remember learning the lyrics to that song before I could actually even read. My parents had brought back the Savage album, the black and white one with their faces. And it had an inlay cover with the lyrics in it. And I remember just loving the song, and I'm like, I have to learn the words to this song. And I would listen to the song and follow the lyrics and kind of piece together words and letters and ask my mom what this meant and what that was. And that's how I learned the lyrics to I Want You by Savage Garden. I still know it. Like a first mega fan experience was definitely when we were going to Surat, Lala and I, my guitarist and I. And I'd posted a story of us boarding the train that morning. And then when we got to the station in Surat, these two guys were already waiting at the platform. And they came up to us and they were like, hey, Mali, right? And I'm like, yeah. And okay, so I assumed that they were from the organizers and they were there to pick us up. But it was only until we were getting into the cab that I realized that these are just people who have come to see us, and apparently they'd driven 3 hours from a nearby city, tracing which train we might be on from Bombay to Surat. and they'd spotted Lala from a distance on the platform, and they'd come up to us, and they like helped us with our gear and escorted us into a cab, and they were taking pictures of us the whole time, and it was a little strange, and I was not used to that. But yeah, that was definitely one of the first like big fan type experiences. When I was in, I think, the 11th or 12th grade, and I'd gone to my cousin's studio. He had a studio at the time that we used to just go and like spend time at and watch him like move things around and alter our voices, and it was just a fun thing. But then I'd gone back in there to record my first song, like just a demo of it for fun. And I remember so clearly hearing yourself up close on like a condenser mic with good headphones and thinking, yuck, is that what I sound like? And it took so long to just get used to the sound of your voice up close. And yeah, the deadness of the studio room was also a little unnerving, I remember. But it was such a cool, strange, isolating experience where it's just you and the instrument that is a part of you. Ah, yes. I got called by a fan of mine from Bangkok to perform in his Japanese restaurant. And at first, I didn't think anything of it because people say, why you should come and perform here, you should come to my town, you should play over here, I'll hook up a gig, and it never really happens. And soon after that, even though a lot was lost in translation between him and I, he'd asked for my details and booked my tickets. And I remember the ticket was completely in Thai except for the airline logo and maybe the PNR number or my name. And I think my parents thought I was going to be sold into the flesh trade. They were like, you cannot be going to Bangkok on your own as a 20-something girl. But I went anyway, and I played 2 shows in Bangkok at his Japanese restaurant to an audience of people who I'm not sure if they understood the stories behind my music or even the lyrics so much. But at the end of it, when I played Play, they cried, I cried, and it was such a beautiful moment. And it was one of those cliches where I'm just like, oh yeah, music is a universal language and it unites us and all of that. But I felt that firsthand.